Good afternoon, collective. Long time no speak. As many of you know, I haven't really been on YouTube for a minute. I've been working, as many of you have, on my own special skill sets and gifts as we, as a collective, move forward into this next evolutionary jump for humanity. And many of us are finding a path that is very ingrained in finding peace and serenity and surrender. And a lot of us are working very hard on ensuring that our life is in alignment with our higher purpose and being called to step into our mission in this world. And so, one of the reasons I've been so quiet is I've been working very quietly, as you will, on focusing my task on writing and speaking things into existence that are more in alignment with a higher vibration. And so, I've been focused heavily into the intelligentsia by way of LinkedIn, and so I've created quite a bit of a nice following over there. But as I was working today and I was finalizing a piece that I was paying homage to an incredibly powerful spiritual leader who I won't mention here, but she's instrumental in our development as souls. And so as I was doing that, I received a very powerful download in the form of a dream. In which I was at a meeting and I was essentially speaking very, very eloquently to the changes that were coming. And a lot of the information was new onto me to some degree, but it felt real, and so I thought I'd pass it on to the collective. This message isn't going to be for everybody. It's going to be for those of you who actually believe in ascension, or for those of you who believe in a collective consciousness, something that is evolving and changing our preservation of the light of consciousness into something more on a collective scale, something much holier, as in circular, not as in, But what it's doing is it's bringing a lot of us together, and that's pretty much what the download is all about, which is many of you have been placed into situations and faced your fears, and you've done it the best way you know how. And one of the things that's happening now is that you are actually being aligned with others within your tribe that you may or may not be aware of. And as you all become lights that attract one another, as the vibration starts to pull towards one another, you are now finding yourself in situations where you are probably going to find yourself catapulted forward in some way, shape, or form. And so something that the Divine wanted me to be very clear on is that when good things happen to good people, after a lifetime of trying to persevere and learn as much as they can, taking the lessons within the blessings and converting it in that evolution of itself, you find yourself even more jarred when things start to go really well for you. And as you start to find these tribes and these families of your own making, not just your bloodline, which is important because that's what passes on your traditions and your heritage and your belief system and the foundation for which you prosper from, but with the new families that you are basically acquiring because of your elevation and because of your due diligence, you're going to be finding yourself a little bit sometimes shaken by the fact that things are going well. And so I'm to remind you that sometimes the best blessings that happen in the world after a long type of hardship can be even more taxing on the body because you're not used to it. And so I'm just to caution you that when good things start to happen to you all, to remember that don't go into the past, don't go into why it didn't work, don't go into the history where you tried something and it didn't prosper. Those days are gone, and in this new world unfolding, at your own feet, by the way, you've created these wonderful things that are now unfolding. As you march into this, the Divine is very clear to not sabotage yourself with looking back when you should be looking in the present, looking forward, without worried about the future. You're just walking. And as you walk, you are now being brought together at different forks in the road with others who are along the same journey. And together, you're going to start working towards uniting the planet and being less divisive and finding ways to be more proactive and more educating without being insulting or without being reactionary. And in place, find yourself in a much stronger position. And so as you all make your way, there are a couple things that I'm supposed to mention to you. First of all, there is a difference between passion and reaction. Passion is something that is ingrained in you. It's the light that is the divine spark inside of you that is telling you that you're on the right path and you need to keep going. Emotion and reaction is when you are outside of control of yourself and you allow others to dictate or to goat you into a confrontation, into an argument. Some are worth venturing into, like for example, I have a thing about Anybody who touches children or does anything towards children, I have absolutely the right to be impassioned by that and how I stand forward on their behalf. But if someone's just sitting there talking smack about me, I let them talk smack. Because what you all have to remember, especially those of you who feel as the chosen ones, those of you who are ascendants, those of you who are disciples, those of you who are captains and stewards of your own ships that will be leading people forward into what's to come. You have to understand that everything that you experience is experienced by the all. You are just a heard part of the all. You're not the entirety of it, but you're like a hair strand blowing in the wind. And the more centered you are in the middle of the hairline, the more centered you are into consciousness. And the more that the all is then able to perceive through you clearly without emotional baggage, which is super important for where we're going. So as much as people can be trying, or as much as they can be name calling, just remember different pioneers have spoken to you before, either in writing or even in song, where they tell you not everyone can be like you. You are unique. Though no one is better than anyone else, you are special. And that special quality attracts lower vibrational attention every now and then. Now your question, or the task that you will have as you all embark on this new half of the journey, is will you react to it, or will you learn to let some things go? Some of us are going through a lot of ego death, where we are looking at others and we're coveting what they have, forgetting in that moment that what we're actually praying for is our own downfall. Because wasn't it Rumi who said specifically that anybody who pursues money is born to be sold and bought for the rest of their lives? Stop chasing monetary gains when you are spiritually wealthy. Why would you ever trade downwards when you're on your way up and out of the maze? Something to bear in mind. Now, there are many great blessed people on this planet who are true leaders in spiritual circles, who have done very well for themselves financially. But if you've noticed, a lot of them spend a lot of time privately giving a lot of their money and time away. There's an exchange there. So instead of looking for financial gains as your means to feel validated, why don't you look inwards to the fact that you are being recognized because of the validation that you spark from within here as the soul protrudes out into the world. And that's going to be something very important for many of you. Because as you covet and you look at others, you're failing to allow for your gifts to prosper. You're so busy, not you particularly, but many of us are so busy looking at what we wish we had that we neglect all that we already possess. Kind of slapping the face of the divine. So though I know some people are more gifted as seers, and some people are more gifted in tarot, or some people are more gifted in understanding theology, understand that your place is sacred, and only you can discredit it by worrying about what others are doing. But as you walk, understand responsibility, which is if everyone that you help, or that you mentor, or that you befriend, or that you know, has to do their own work. You cannot take away their ability to do everything that you've done. This is the easier part of the journey. This is where you are now somewhere along the mountain, able to help give direction to others who will now be following you. But you remember what it took you to get here. So don't lose that in pompousness or ego or believing that you're somehow better than everybody else, because none of us are. The all is not looking for imperfection in the sense that where they're so focused on them being better than everyone else. He's looking for the quality of imperfection that you're working on and that can be of greater service to a much broader consciousness than just our own. You know, as we move forward, there are a great many changes that will befall us. We're repeating some of the same cycles, including possibly going to war over, possession and over ego and over whatever the low vibrational nature is. And a lot of you are going to be tasked with being that stable post that stands in the middle of the quicksand, helping people stay afloat. And you're going to have to be able to do that with grace and a lot of integrity. So as we all march forward into this next phase, look to people who are at your vibration, but don't look to become them. Look to stand in your own vibration, whatever that is. The all, the divine, God, Allah, whoever you believe in, is self-manifesting within each of us, something sacred. It's a query. We're all like a big network of queries, right? Like a computer mainframe. And all of them are sent out into our universe in order to accomplish and persevere, not because we're intended to struggle, but because they want to see how we get up from the struggle and how we rise as the phoenixes. And that's where the journey truly is. So as you go forth, some of you are finding yourself tired of going over the same material and sharing your story, but then what good are you in service to the greater design? Because it is in how you persevere through that struggle that you bond and you connect with the others that are at your vibration. If you disconnect from that and become so jaded with having to repeat yourself over and over again, then you lose the people that you are literally designed to be helping and guiding. Remember, being a guide and being a mentor doesn't mean being necessarily just a teacher. The best teachers and mentors are students first. Everything is geared towards expansion of consciousness. Every single one of you has tasks, whether you are the truth bearer, which is always in the pursuit of truth, greater or minor, and how to connect with others in order to bring them into their truth, understanding that your truth is not always theirs. But they must find their own path, and they must stand in atonement for their own actions, whatever their faith or belief is. It is not our task to judge or pass judgment, I should say, on how someone else arrives to the great architect. That is between the great architect and that individual. Remember, we are souls in an academy, and we are here to learn and prosper. But we cannot learn and prosper if we take ownership over other people's journeys and try to make them conform into how we got there. The best we can do is share every individual story that we have in our arsenal and be honest and humble with how we persevered, or if we're still struggling. Because remember, a lot of us are finding our soul tribes, and they are also working on developing themselves. This is not a race to be the number one, because the number one is already established. It's the all. We can't compete with that, and nor should you be trying. Competition is incredibly healthy in academic circles. It's incredibly healthy, I guess, if you want to be a ratings grabber, but those are all monetary gains. To the people I'm speaking to a very high vibrational group of leaders. If you are the change maker, then understand that the changes that need to happen are going to be uncomfortable for a great many. So if you find yourself the center of attention because you have to stand up for people that are misrepresented, then understand that that's the contract you signed along your journey, and you need to decide now if that's something that you want to pursue. Because in the end, we're all here to be of service. Service to something that sometimes is hard to find until we're on the path ourselves. So don't give up because things get hard. Because even the most blessed of people will go through transitions, part of their evolution, otherwise they wouldn't be here. Someone who used to be an incredibly famous person, at some point will fall, the wheel will turn. So their evolution is to then figure out how to rise again in a different setting, but it's going to be challenging. Some of the most influential people on our planet have fallen and gotten right back up, and they built entire empires out of small little castles. So understand that no matter how big you think you're getting, the divine will humble you at any point in time. And it's imperative that we remember that everyone that we meet is like us. They are either possibly in front of us in evolution or they are slightly behind us in evolution. But we do not judge, for the all is watching as we walk. Something that I really want everybody to truly take into their heart. When you understand that the all, the divine, God, Allah, whoever you believe in, truly loves you, it empowers you to simplify your life, to find the truth of who you are and the balance that makes you feel whole. And when you find that, you hear clearly and become the vessel that you're designed to be. Sure, your dreams are just as important as anyone else's dreams, but in the end, are they aligned with your truest nature? That naivety, that purity that exists within you, that is the funnel that allows the information to come to you and to come out of you. Do you get stuck in needing validation from others? Do you get stuck in feeling like just because the world isn't looking the way that you want it at this time, that you're not incredibly blessed in whatever it is you do have? There are people who would love to live the life that you have, even if you're dirt poor. Some people live in third world countries where they don't even have remotely what you have. So though it's hard, because I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's not hard. It's incredibly hard at times. It is the way that you persevere that is the story in your legacy. It's what you do with the energy and the time you had on this planet. Are you grateful? that the divine knows your name. You know, many of us go through this journey, and the way that it was presented to me is we go through it begging to be heard. And then we never realize that we are being heard by something that we can't see. So busy looking at trying to be heard in the physical world that we don't see the small miracles happening around our life to keep us going and to keep us happy and to keep us truly in alignment with who we really, really are. Instead, we're focusing on what everyone else is doing in the physical world, forgetting that some of them, a lot of them, are even more lost than we are. So instead of looking to our own immediacy and our environment and who we are and our energy and what it is we're putting out into the world, we're waiting for people to acknowledge that as what needs to happen, forgetting then that you are disconnecting from the real voice that is trying to propel you into exact placement for where you need to be. So it's not like I ever want to get on a soapbox, because that's not going to happen. I'm just acting as a messenger in this moment and breaking from what I was doing, because we are being tasked with moving each other towards one another. If you believe in esotericism, you understand that life is the breath out. It's what evolution is. That life comes from the divine's breath externalizing. But at some point, the breath begins to go back. It starts to inhale. And we as a collective are on the inhalation now. There's great abundance in what's about to transpire. But understand that when things change and transition, it is jarring. And sometimes the greatest blessings can be big curses. Because if you're not ready for them and not standing in firm alignment, founded on the rock, then anything can tip you and push you off the edge. And so many of us have been privately for about 8 months, maybe I've been gone. About 8 months really honing our skill sets to find the divine beingness that most represents our peace and serenity. Because it's something that's going to be very important in the leadership quality that you possess into the future, now unfolded. Remember, everything that we choose to do has a reaction. Sometimes we don't know where the boss is leading us, but we are being led if we are listening to the truth of who we are and standing in isolation sometimes and being at peace with whoever it is that we are at this time. It is of no value to the divine to pass judgment on another human being who is in deeper struggle than you are if you can't first identify that you understand that struggle that they're going through. One of the great many blessings that I've had along my journey is that I have had incredible downfalls. I have had some of the worst luck you can think of in the world. And in those moments, I remember specifically thinking, why am I forsaken? Why is my karma so bad? What could I possibly have ever done? And then there came a point along the journey, I say about the last year, where everything that had happened has led me to a place of stillness. And in that stillness, the voice that comes through me is of a pure, more naivete. And people's mistaken naivete for softness or for the inability to defend myself. But they're forgetting that the divine walks in humility. The divine has always walked in humility. It's one of the things I used to joke about as a kid. I'm like, if the boss ever came back, I'm not saying I'm the boss, I'm saying when he comes back, he's not going to come back as a billionaire. He's not going to do that. He's going to come back as he is, humble. And so those of us who have experienced humility on a very long trajectory have a higher chance of being angelic in the future, or possibly being a master at some point in our life. But we've learned that we don't chase mastery. It's just something that happens when you live and breathe in light, when you bring people towards one another, when you act as a vessel that brings unity, compassion, empathy, integrity to the world. It doesn't matter that Uncle so-and-so thinks you're a waste of time, because Uncle so-and-so isn't the one who's guiding you and letting you know that every struggle that you've had is a lesson, and the evolution of a lesson is it becomes a blessing. Some people say when pain becomes pleasure, and when you can bring harmony to that pain and present it in a way that helps others understand that they're not alone, then you are succeeding in life. Something that Uncle so-and-so cannot see because he hasn't gotten there. So though people may throw stones and so forth at you, your task now is to walk in grace and let them speak. Free speech is incredibly important because it allows free will. One of the things I've been noticing among the collective with many of the people that I really respect and admire is that they've been speaking to allowing people sometimes to speak their truth, because in their speaking their truth, it provides just how ignorant they truly are. And they don't know it. And so it's not our place to judge them. We allow it to be seen, to be understood, because at some point, in its presentation, outwardly, externalizing, it becomes made clear to them, and it's their task then to figure out, not yours. So though a great many of us are about to be even more blessed than we have been, understand that blessings is a perspective. In order to be blessed, you have had to have learned the lessons that is the core to the word blessing. And upon the day that you do that, then you reach a different level. And then you have new beasts, you have new foes, you have people who had good karma, but haven't really lived the best life now, or who are so empty in their own journeys that the only thing they can do is fickle themselves into a position of being envious over what you have, neglecting the fact that they haven't actually lived the path that you have walked. And so in those moments, what I'm to tell you all is let them be and let them go. Whenever you become conflicted and in argument with another person, you begin tying your energy to that person, because in your reaction, you now have a cycle that needs to be completed. Why give them that power? If someone wants to yell and scream and bitch and moan that you are an abomination because you believe in unity and the preservation of the light of consciousness and working for a more equality for women, for gays, for blacks, for whites, for everybody, if they want to yell and say that their way is the only way, then let them walk that path. That all is observing it through you. There's nothing for you to need to do. If you walk in divine alignment, then you are always safe. It's one of the things I was told when I first began this mission almost 3 years ago, which was you are absolutely safe unless you believe you're not, in which case then you are on your own, which is just a testament that I can say on my behalf that has led me into a better sense of stillness and a higher quality of the sweet spot. Because in the end, what I've discovered is that whether I'm to play a big or small part in the evolution of life and my own journey and whatnot, only the divine knows the end result of the plan. Each of us just hold pieces and are being put in our placement of how we fit into the larger puzzle. Only he or she or it understands the masterpiece as it is, and where the tapestry connects and where it doesn't connect, and where we need to bridge the tapestry in order to streamline the experience for all of humanity. So when you find yourself feeling that age-old saying, with the sweets comes the sours, understand that you are experiencing it in the best way possible because you have learned your lessons. It is now their turn to learn theirs. Don't waste your time tying yourself to people who aren't coming anyway. And that's not a judgment call because we don't make that decision. What I'm saying though is, why are you trying to tug along angst and things that have happened and bring that with you into a future that is supposed to be made of a lot more purity and simpleness and quiet and peace and love and harmony? Let them go. Don't attach yourself to those energies. I have some of them in my own life, or I had them, and now I've literally blocked them permanently. Because though they may want to apologize at some point, I'm not waiting around for that. My life value and my worth is not invested in what they think of me. Because in the end, what matters to me is what I think of myself and what you think of yourself. And are you understanding how valuable and loved you are by the all that is the one guiding you? That is the most sacred truth that I can give you at this time. So if you are the bearer of truth, some of the things that we are to really focus on is how do we present truth, whatever it is, because remember, all truths are but half-truths, but how do we present it in a unicative way that allows humanity to come to the table and share similarities so as to dispel the disharmony that is created through what is not familiar. How do we bring people to a table where they can understand where they are closer together than where they're further apart? One of the great many downfalls of humanity is that we allow ourselves to be compartmentalized to such a degree that we can never become unified. We're so left or right, or we're so up or down, that we're forgetting that it is the middle path that brings everything into unity, and that's where the all lives. So, part of the truth bearing that has to happen is to allow all truths and to find a way to give them the freedom to express themselves and then meet them in the middle. Education, any type of platform that speaks to a more well rounded, non censored setting is always going to be more appropriate for where we're going as a species, because evolution is the ability to move together upwardly. De-evolution is the ability to separate and become so divisive that we de-evolve downwards and become more primitive. There are different theories out there, whether it's scientific or even spiritual, that speaks to a fork in the road where humanity will have to choose of its own accord, whether it will unite with a common vision and start working towards equality, protection of women, protection of children, if it's going to actually raise its vibration, if it's going to stop using nuclear weaponry instead of using what that gift is for. Because if we do that, then a door opens and we evolve, and new and wonderful, mysterious, fantastic things await us. But if we de-evolve and do what we're doing, which is complete polarization and hypocrisy and greed and loathing and hatred and all of that stuff that grounds us even further down into the depths of hell, then we recycle the same exact life cycles over and over and over again, never freeing ourselves from that karma, creating even more baggage, even though we just went through a reset, and we just end up at some point annihilated. Whether of our own hands or whether divine just goes, okay, that's it. I'm not going to kill my daughter Earth on behalf of what's supposed to be the caretakers. And so there are two extremes that we're walking in the middle of. But some of the choices that we're having to make is who we align ourselves with. And one of the things about alignment is that you have to be able to meet each other in the middle. And for me, as an example, I am very universally minded, and so I have no distrust of someone who is into tarot reading. I equally look at them with as much value as I look at somebody who is a priest or a pastor. Like I see the fact that the boss is working and trying to bring everybody, whatever road it is that's going up the mountain, they're all going to end up at the pinnacle. They're all going to the same direction. They may call it by different names, but it's not my place to tell anybody where it is. And that angers people so much. And I've just learned to just let them be angry. I don't allow that energy into my space. And that's one of the things that I'm just going to say to you all, is you can't fault people for where we ourselves were when we began the journey. You can't look your nose down at somebody that you used to be just because you have elevated or have changed or transformed into the being that the divine wants you to become. Doesn't mean that you don't remember what it was to be that person. I remember the other day I was walking down the street. It's a sidebar, but we're having an informal conversation. So I was walking down the street, and I remember this person just started screaming at the top of their lungs. They were having like a breakdown of some kind. It was hot, and I could understand it. But I couldn't understand why someone would just decide to just blow up like that. And then I remembered, I had an image in my head pop in, of one night I got really drunk way back in the day. And in my blackout stage, I lost it. And I went, oh, okay. So, I was immediately humbled. And that's one of the blessings that comes with evolution and with spirituality, is that you understand that you have been every place that every single person has. Obviously, there's certain things that happen to us that I would never have done. But I've been on the receiving end of those same things, so I understand the dichotomy between the two. So even though sometimes we may find ourselves really struggling to understand someone's perspective, we have to understand that there are aspects to their cycle or to their story that we can identify with. And so we start to break away from all of the the frivolity and the superfluous things that don't really matter. At the end of all time, what will lead us home is the ability to work as one and to see the divine in each other's eyes. That's what soul to soul connection is. That's what soul tribes are. Is when you see the divine looking back at you in whatever format it is going, whatever it's trying to manifest in that experience, then you immediately have compassion and empathy for that person, allowing you the ability to let them be. You know, Tesla, one of my heroes, one of my favorite people, once said that we are going to be living the life of bees. And I wrote an entire piece on LinkedIn about this because I realized what he was speaking to wasn't literally the life of bees, although we are the pollinators and caretakers of the planet Earth. It's our academy. We're supposed to be taking care of it. But what he was speaking to was beingness, the ability to stand in being and be able to handle and adjust and ride the waves as they come. A form of mastery, something that he was working on. And so as we find our beingness along this journey, we have to allow other bees to be in theirness, whatever it is. And so the download essentially went a little bit like this. Please stop looking at others and asking for what they have, because where you're going is so much better. You are asking for a downgrade. Second, if someone is responding to you negatively, then they're not part of your tribe. Don't waste your time on fighting with people that are just being bitchy when you have bigger tasks to do. If you're trying to find the ignition and the passion in your life, then what is your skill set? Where are you the creative genius that divine is focusing its energy through? If you're an artist, what is the masterpiece that you're creating out of the vision and experience that you're having? If you're the truth teller, how do you present the truth? Are you combative? Are you welcoming? Are you loving? Are you understanding of where they're coming from? Are you putting yourself in the positions where they are? Or are you speaking so high on the pedestal that you're looking down upon them? Because if you are, then you are of no service to the grander being. If you are a celebrity with millions and millions of dollars, are you then spending your time or any of your energy helping other people rise? Are you doing what that brilliant man just did, where he donated his company? His kids didn't want it. They didn't want it, and they wanted to do something good, right? The legacy that they're now leaving is that they donated the company to charity. Are you doing something like that? Or are you hoarding all your money for the day that the world ends? Well, here's the thing. The world will inevitably end. But it ends. Like, you can't run from it. So what are you hoarding your money for? So ask yourself these questions, because if you're waiting for the sign, then understand that the sign comes through you. And you're being aligned in places and positions right at this moment, where all it takes is a chance encounter with one individual that will immediately branch everything open for you. And as soon as that happens, suddenly all the light comes at you. And you're going to be like, what do I do? Everything you've been trained to do. Everything that you have experienced, every struggle, every little bit of turmoil that you've been through, every blessing that you have learned from the lesson, all of those things come into play in the exact moment, as long as you're centering. If you're in that sweet spot, the divine will speak through you, and you will be able to weather whatever the storm may be. Now remember, I've said this before, but I think it was in print. A storm is a perspective thing, because to me, it's just rain. There's no storm. It's just rain, right? Only we can allow it to be a storm. And though I'm still finding my way, I still trip, but the clarity in which I hear the boss come through me, my higher self, is so crystal clear that I have literally been in situations where if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be here. But it took a centeredness. Something that I remember, I think it was Oprah Winfrey was speaking to one day on one of her videos, where she was on trial for something. And it was in the middle of one of the most heated parts of it. And the man was being so vitriolistic, I don't know if that's a word, but he was spouting so much vitriol at her that she was able to center it. And because she realized that it just wasn't true about her. And suddenly, it was the best thing that ever happened to her. And so that's what I'm speaking to. And then there are some of you who, I'm just going to say this. You're supposed to start working together. It doesn't matter if you believe that your foundational stone, if you're very Catholic or Baptist or Muslim, or you're starting to feel, especially if you're a captain or steward of one of the ships, you're starting to feel a need to bring people together. And you're going to have to let go of this belief that you have to let go of your traditions and the text and the sacred knowledge that you possess in order to then communicate and work with other people. That's not real, right? The structure is not real. The structure is just a doorway that leads people upward. So try as best as you can, wherever you stand in evolution, to understand, is your attachment to the house, or are you in service of the divine that owns the house? Are you lost in the illusion that the house, that the structure itself is the divine? Because that doesn't even make logical sense. So those are the kind of questions that you need to start working with, because many of you, not many of you, the way it was phrased to me is a lot of people are at the threshold of making the transition that's required of them to make that bridge to another culture or another tradition or another thing. And they're so worried about what the structure that they're leaving is going to say about them, forgetting that spirituality and the divine is much bigger than whatever we're perceiving. So as you walk forward, what I'm supposed to remind you all is that grace comes with the ability to always be humble and to be present. Listen when you need to listen, because that's super important, especially to your inner monologue. But know when to tell somebody to back it up, and then back that up. And then last but not least, this was very funny to me. The way to download, one of the things that was mentioned in the download was, I actually heard Maya Angelou say it, which was funny, because it was a very interesting moment. But it was, don't over moderation. And what I was experiencing in the download was, I remember I had gone through a period when 2020 first hit, where I was sent on mission, and I just stopped doing everything. I stopped doing drugs, I stopped doing alcohol, I stopped having sex, I just went cold turkey and everything. And one day the divine was like, you need to go out and do something. Like once, I think it was 2021. Or no, 2022, it was 2 years. So 22 rolled around, and basically I was taken out. And I had not moderated moderation, so the first time that I went out, I was a complete blubbering idiot. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I'm never going to do this again. That is so stupid. And then I realized when in the download, what was said very clearly was, you were over-moderating moderation. And so, of course, the first time you're going to go out, you're going to be an idiot. Now, can you balance it out? And so I've learned to just I've learned very clearly that there's an inner voice that comes through me, usually about drink two. If I'm having a cocktail, I don't do drugs obviously, but if I go out with a friend and I'll have a cocktail, I stop at 2, and here's why. It's because I hear a voice specifically say, do we need another one? And whenever I have chosen to ignore that and go, I'll have another one on my own as a personality, I realize I've been disconnecting with the boss. And why would I ever want to do that? Why, after all of this work, would I ever want to lose consciousness with the boss? And so it was a great lesson for me. So just be aware of that. Now, there are some people out there whose cross that they are carrying, that they must bear and overcome, is alcoholism. Those people should not drink, right? But everyone has their vice. And who was it? I think it was Natalie, made a very good point the other day, where she was talking about how she absolutely just doesn't drink at all because it makes her more susceptible to external stimuli. And so if someone's like thinking really negative thoughts about the person, or sending casting spells or whatever it is that we, believe that can happen, when we allow that into our space, it was becoming like a little hole in it, and she just doesn't do it. To those people, stay on your path. But what I'm sharing with you is my personal story. Understand that if you don't have those, if it's not a cross for you to bear, then don't over-moderate moderation. Because what can end up happening is you'll trip yourself up trying to be too good and trying to be perfect, when the only thing perfect is the all. You're here still learning. We're still here with a shadow. And so the shadow still has to be walked through. And so I'm not giving you any sort of counsel on it. What I'm saying to you is I'm giving you prime examples of ways that we can interconnect and relate to what's unfolding. Because there's a lot of change coming. War is not easy. Whether you believe it to be spiritual war, or whether you believe, because a lot of people are believing that the spiritual war is going to be between the houses. That's already been happening. That's not new. The spiritual war that's happening for a lot of people that we're going to be serving is the inner spiritual war of trying to find the truth among a lot of not truths. And so how do they balance that out? And how do they stay true to the text and to the value of what it is that their faith brought them? Right? Because some people are facing some really hard conversations with themselves. I don't believe in homophobia. I don't believe that women are secondary citizens. I don't believe that black people are evil. I don't believe this, and that. And these houses are telling me that they are. And so if I walk away from the house, does that mean that I'm walking away from faith? No. If anything, my faith has gotten stronger. You know. And so it's also very important to then not turn around and then be blasphemous towards the house. The house serves a purpose. The house is a physical structure and a physical 3D environment that is bringing people closer to the divine. All roads lead home. But where we're going now is reminding people that at some point when you go into the structure, some people might outgrow the limited mindset to it. And there's no judgment of the people who are still in that. Some people need guidance, literally a structured map, and they have to stick to that map. Those people have their own path, and we honor those paths. But there are others of us who get to a certain point within every house where we hit a ceiling, and it stops, it's stifling our own evolution. And it's to those people that the people I'm speaking to right now will be guiding and being of service to. Because you're going to take them to the second floor of the same house. A doorway will appear, and you will be there to help guide them up that ladder and take them to whatever the destination is that they're trying to go to. Remember, at the end of when it's all said and done, be the search engine. Allow people to ask you the question before you give them answers. It's something that people have noticed about me in my writing, and when they meet me, it jars them. I come across incredibly naive at times because I ask questions I ask questions that I already know the answer to. Because the way I believe in teaching and being of service is that I ensure that people know how I did the job, how I got the answer. And the only way to do that is to meet them where they are. And that's where I am, right? That's why people journal. That's why you journal. When you journal, you allow yourself access to exactly how you were feeling and what you were going through in that moment. And when you're able to tap into that by reading it, you're then able to serve the person in front of you. One of the great many blessings I've learned. So as you make your way, understand that sometimes you're going to meet simpletons or naive people that are going to come across incredibly pure, and you're going to have an inkling to make fun of them, actually, which a lot of people do to me all the time, and I'm perfectly comfortable with it. Because the key that I hold to ascension is humility. I don't need anything flashy. I'm just trying to be the best person I can be, and a lot of you are too. So if you find yourself in that alignment and that type of frequency, then understand that it is your humility that is your grace and how you present yourself into the world. Because what ends up happening when people meet me is they meet me, and my soul apparently is a lot bigger than I am, and how it energetically vibrates with other people. And I've found that people can only be around me for a certain amount of time before they're just like, "Ooh, this is too pure." It reminds me of that saying from Greece where Rizzo looks at the other girls and says, "She's too pure to be pink." Every now and then that happens, and I just kind of giggle and just like, okay, well, it was nice seeing you. I'll see you later. I'm perfectly happy with being alone. I mean, it would be nice to walk in the path with someone else, but I've learned that there's nothing greater. There's no bigger connection. There will never be a bigger connection than between me and my children or me and the divine. And since I don't have any children, I can totally be happy just spending time talking to the boss. And you know, a lot of people are forgetting that there's something called the high councils. And they're very sacred to different denominations in different houses. And just because you are ascending out of maybe traditionalism or dogma doesn't mean that you can't ask Archangel Michael for guidance, or whatever the deities are that you grew up with. They still exist. It's just morphing and changing how you present that. And are you working towards more unity and more compassion for each other? Because if you notice, a lot of what we are in friction about is me centric. It's all, how do I make more money? I don't care. I mean, personally, that's my personality saying to you, I don't care how you make more money. Do what I do, just go out and work. And that's the other part. That's the last part of the download. Oh, good. I'm glad that was better. Okay. Some of you, especially some of the more humble ones of you, from what I'm told, are going to have a lot of money, and it's going to throw you because you never asked for that. One of the greatest things I always asked for is I just wanted a home that reflected my soul. That's it. Peaceful, serene, quiet, a space that I can meditate, a space that I own, that's my own, and I've yet to have it. But what I'm saying is that some of you have asked for something that simple, and you're going to get a castle. And even some of you beyond that are going to get an empire. Imagine how off-putting that's going to be for you. You started off just wanting to have a home. I was happy with a condo. Like, my biggest dream was a condo. I had money as a kid, but I spent most of my life without it. So I'm really not worried about that. I can survive on very little, and it's not boasting. It's just a part of my experience. And so I've just gotten to a place where I've always just asked for, I wanted a condo. I wanted a quiet condo with a nice view that was quiet. So if you're one of those people, I'm just supposed to tell you that some of you are going to experience a catapult that's going to be attached to other people who are like-minded with you that are going to do great things on the planet. But you're going to have a lot of responsibility because you are so humble. Don't fall for the trap. The trap is that you get the money and you're not used to it, and all of a sudden you hoard it, or you don't share it, or you do what all of these other celebrities and these people who have been blessed are doing, which is they don't give back to charity, or they don't give enough to charity, or they're not, you don't even have to give to charity. You could do things like build schools. Build at least one freaking school, or build a new universal spiritual center, or something that helps humanity, or build a shelter. Even better, some of you are going to have enough money to do what I want to do, which is buy air conditioners for every elderly person on our planet. I don't understand, this is a personal Al moment, it's the personality speaking here, but I don't understand why we're still allowing people to live in a global warming situation where the microwave is heating up, allowing people to suffer and die from heat and from heat stroke and dehydration, when all we need to do is just give them air conditioners. Why is that not a legal law? I don't understand. Why don't you do that? Stuff like that. So when you get this money, because you're going to have people say, keep the money. You got to keep it just for yourself. Who do you work for? I never realized I had that wrinkle right there. Who do you work for? Ask yourself that question. Who am I working for in this moment? Do I need $20 million? What the hell am I going to do with $20 million on my own? Okay, I'll give my kids. They need to earn their way too. Like, if I'm going to hand it to them, I'm going to give them a lot of responsibility. You see what I'm saying? So don't just take the prize and forget that the wheel continues to turn. You know what I mean? Don't be your own trip up, right? If your dream is to be of service, and that through your service and what you've been asking for will then benefit other people, then you better make sure that you benefit other people. That is like where I'm going to end it right there, because that was that was an exclamation point when I got the download, which was, when you receive this, will you use it in the right way? And how do you balance what you need with what it is you want? Because what we're giving it to you for is what you said you were going to do with it. Blessings, guys. I'll see if I'll probably talk to you guys at a later time. Is there anything else I need to say? Oh, abundance. Okay. P.S. By the way. Sorry, I'm thirsty. I'm not used to talking this much. Anymore. I've learned to listen. I'm not really talking anymore. Except at work. Bygones. Okay. So, the final part of the message. There are various ways to be abundant. There's an energy called Lady Wisdom. I technically call her Venus, but that exists. That if you're in search of true higher guidance and a more deeper understanding of what it is to be of service, then one of the greatest powers you can have in this planet is wisdom. And that energy is very, very present in the lives of everyone who seeks it out. You know, if you understand that we live in a matrix, I like to look at it like this. If humanity is the id, and then the divine is the super id. I'm sorry, if we're the ego, because we're the ego, if humanity is the ego, and the boss is the super id, then the matrix itself is the id. It sees all, it knows all, you can never run from it. And one of the things that falls into alignment with that id, the middle branch of it all, the connecting nervous system, is the internet. So sometimes all you really need to do in life, if you're in search of higher guidance of your own accord that connects you with a more purified sense of unity with the boss, seek him out in the cloud. Search engine. How can I be of better service? Because the algorithm, the connecting thread, then we'll look at what you're doing in your life, and it will pull the next best thing that probably leads you to the answer that you want. And then it's up to you to pick from those answers which one best aligns with your truth. To then do what? To then follow the wisdom trap. Okay, then you read it. And then you look down as you read it, and you're like, oh, what is this link? Oh. What is that central nervous system then saying about you? It'll start bringing you more and more of what you're in search of. None of us can say that there's not endless abundance around us. And if all else fails, do what I do. If you really have no idea what to do on something, then walk aimlessly, because you will find direction in that. When you stop focusing on the physicality of what you're looking for, and you allow yourself the ability to just walk sometimes, personally speaking, I always find the answer I'm seeking. Now, if you're a type A personality, I will say this. For you, that probably won't work. So know yourself, to thy own self be true. Because for someone who's a very analytical personality, they want to know where they're going always. That for them, then, the evolutionary question would be, but are you enjoying the journey to get to where you already know you're going? Because if you're not, then you're no different than the other side. Everything comes together. So, though everyone really loves to think about abundance from the sense of materialism and our houses and our cars and, oh, I got this new whatever phone or whatever it is y'all are all about. Not you personally, but whatever the world's about right now, I see it, but I don't really put a lot of cadence to it because it's not my truth anymore. But I definitely don't judge anybody for them being all about it. But what I'm saying to you is, if you allow yourself to step back far enough, you start to realize that really doesn't mean much. Some of the wealthiest people are some of the most miserable people on the planet because they really thought that they would go and they would accomplish all those things, and then they got there and it means nothing to them. But what means something to them is like a book, time alone. So it's a forced perspective thing. So be aware that there are energies that you can ask for by whatever name you give it. Some people call it the Holy Ghost, like I do. That will always answer your prayer, and sometimes literally on the spot. It is your task to understand and to be present to see how quickly that happens. Because when you start to really pay attention every day, you start to see that no matter what happens in your day, sometimes even the homeless person you pass will say something random that has nothing to do with you directly, that will answer the question you just asked the higher being. Remember, if everything is connected and interconnected through the tapestry of life and part of the all, then the all will always be present because it's the all. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and blessings and all that.